China is losing its millionaires left and right, but the UK is losing twice as much as them. Take a nice good look at this millionaire migration chart made by Visual Capitalists, and you can see that yes, China lost 7.8k millionaires and billionaires in 2025, but the UK lost 16.5 thousand. And where did these wealthy people move to? Believe it or not, the US was the second most popular destination for the wealthy people to park their resources, with 7,500 in this year. And remember, the US is dealing with its own economic crisis, a potential recession, the huge tariffs, a whole bunch of economic uncertainty. But the filthy rich thought that the US was at least the second safest place for them to live as a wealthy person. The number one spot is the United Arab Emirates for obvious reasons. They have much lower taxes for the wealthy, their residency programs are very generous, and it's true, they do have a high-end lifestyle. At least it's something that they can offer to the global elites. Italy surprised me as the third most popular spot. Then Switzerland did not, because they're always going to be in the top 5 because they are very money friendly. But again, why on earth is the United Kingdom at the bottom of this millionaire migration list? Why are they bleeding their wealthy left and right? It stems from a very foolish decision that the British population made in 2016 when they voted to leave the European Union. This proves, at least to me and my other educated Americans, that the Brits are nowhere near as enlightened or educated as they try to lead the world to believe, because this decision has set them back by at least a decade or two. But I'll say this in defense of the British people who voted to stay in the European Union: 48% of the population wanted to remain, but the other, not so smart 52% wanted to leave, and you guys are suffering for it. And I know everybody likes to blame Boris Johnson because he is the one who spearheaded this effort, but he did this at the behest of a very foolish but potent and active populace. You see, just like most Americans are utterly clueless about the benefits of being in NATO, in the UN, and a whole bunch of other partnerships, the majority of the UK population didn't understand the benefits that they had for being in the EU. And the funny thing is, the UK didn't really leave the EU until 2020. But those 4 years from 2016 to 2020 were still very rough because the wealthy and powerful, at least when it comes to money, in the UK had to reshuffle their whole portfolios. Some of them had to actually leave. And of course, the world pulled out some of its foreign direct investment. In fact, by 2019, the UK lost about 20% of its foreign direct investment, and there were so many major companies that decided to just offshore. The UK is the 4th or 5th largest economy on the planet, and they enjoyed frictionless trade with the entirety of the European Union, meaning that there were no tariffs and very little to no barriers to trade between the UK and any other European Union member. It also meant that labor was able to freely go throughout most of the European continent. But for some reason, enough people in the UK thought that free trade and free labor migration was a bad thing, and they would benefit from the opposite of both. So, multinational corporations and trillions of dollars of individual wealth and investment has been leaking or bleeding out of that country ever since. And that's why we are seeing 2025 being such an awful year for the UK's wealthy. I have to correct myself, it's actually not just Brexit, it's the lunacy in policy that followed Brexit as well. For the past few years, the UK government has been imposing some stringent tax laws against the UK's wealthy, which generally I'm in favor for, but the unfortunate reality is this: if you tax the wealthy enough, they will relocate their resources to other countries like Dubai, the UAE, and the United States. The UK do have more wiggle room with the taxing of their wealth than, let's say, the United States. The US has the wealthiest people in the world. We are also the world's second largest exporter, the second largest manufacturer. We are the world's largest producer of services, and the first largest financial market in the world. If America taxes the leading producer of each of these sectors, they can't relocate to another country because most likely we'll be able to tariff the heck out of them, and there's nothing they could do about it because they rely on the American consumer base to purchase their goods. But that's a different story. It would take a much longer post than this one to explain that. Either way, the millionaire migration, the economic stagnation and suffering of the UK are a preview as to what would happen to the United States if we abandoned free trade the way the UK did. I am the Geo Husar, and the United Kingdom is giving us the warning in real time. Thanks for watching.